A child sits at the kitchen table, hands nervously fidgeting. They haven't done their homework, but when the parent asks, they say, I finished it already. The lie is small, almost invisible, but it carries a weight. It's not just about avoiding punishment, it's about survival. The child has learned early that the truth sometimes hurts more than a lie, and what begins as a small act, repeated enough times, can become a pattern, a shield, a secret language to navigate a world that feels unpredictable, harsh, or rejecting. Have you ever noticed people who lie not because they want to manipulate, but because they are afraid? Afraid of disapproval, afraid of abandonment, of not being enough? Psychologists call this survival strategy. Children who grew up in environments where love feels conditional often learn quickly that honesty can be dangerous, and so lying becomes not a moral failing but a learned instinct. It starts subtly. The child tells a small story to avoid conflict. They exaggerate a detail to feel noticed. They hide a mistake to avoid shame. And with each lie, something shifts. Their nervous system learns truth is risky and fabrication is safe. Over time, the brain reinforces this pattern. The lie stops feeling like a choice, it becomes automatic. But here's the paradox: lying temporarily shields the child, but it also creates distance. The child learns that others cannot be trusted with their truth. They may begin to distrust themselves, too unsure what is real, unsure what is safe to reveal, and this self doubt, though invisible, shapes how they move through the world for years to come. Consider the emotional landscape of the serial liar. There is often fear simmering beneath confidence. Guilt shadows almost every statement. Anxiety hovers over interactions. They may feel isolated even in a crowded room because their inner life, the real self, remains hidden. And yet, from the outside, they might appear charming, clever, even trustworthy. The lie is a mask, a performance designed to protect a fragile self. Psychologists have found that many compulsive liars share one thing in common: a history of unmet needs in childhood, emotional neglect, inconsistent care, harsh criticism, or unpredictable environments create a landscape where truth feels dangerous, and when survival depends on pleasing, avoiding, or controlling perception, the lie becomes a tool and not an immoral choice. And here is something important to understand: lying is not conscious in the way we think. The serial liar may not wake up desiring to deceive. The brain has wired itself to anticipate threat, and lying becomes a reflex. It's a strategy for staying safe, for being seen, for being accepted. But while this strategy protects, it also isolates. Over time, the liar may struggle with real intimacy, struggle to trust, struggle to believe that honesty could ever be safe. Relationships become a dance of half truths and concealment, leaving them feeling perpetually unseen and misunderstood. Yet, there is a deeper layer here that few notice. The serial liar is often hyper aware of others' emotions. They read moods, predict reactions, sense expectations. This is not manipulation, it is survival. They have learned to navigate a world what once felt unsafe, and that skill, painful as it is, can become extraordinary awareness. So, if you recognize yourself or someone you know in these patterns, know this: the serial liar is not inherently broken. They were a child who learned early that the truth could hurt and who developed a complex system to survive. The patterns are deep, but they are not unchangeable. Awareness is the first step, and understanding lying often begins with fear, not malice. It is the doorway to empathy, insight, and eventually transformation. The child who once lied to survive grows into an adult, but the pattern doesn't stop. The lie becomes more sophisticated, more automatic, harder to separate from truth. In relationships, they may tell half truths to avoid conflict. At work, they may embellish achievements to feel worthy. And in their own mind, the question often lingers: who am I if I'm not performing, not pretending, not protecting myself with words? It's exhausting. Living behind a veil of falsehoods takes energy, focus, and constant calculation. Yet, for the serial liar, it often feels safer than being fully seen. Vulnerability can feel like a threat, an opening for judgment, abandonment, or rejection. And so, the cycle continues. Lies become survival, but survival comes at a cost. Emotionally, the adult may feel perpetually isolated. Even in intimacy, there is fear. Fear that revealing the truth will push people away. Fear that their real self is not enough. They may struggle with shame, guilt, and self doubt, quietly asking, if they knew me, would they stay? And this self questioning keeps them trapped, repeating the very pattern that once protected them as a child. The paradox is striking. The skills that help them survive, perception, awareness, adaptability, now fuel a self protective armor. They can read rooms, sense emotions, anticipate reactions, and navigate social dynamics with uncanny precision. But while this skill can create success and charm, it also isolates. The adult serial liar often fears intimacy more than loneliness because closeness demands honesty, and honesty feels dangerous. Psychologists note that compulsive lying often comes from trauma, neglect, or inconsistent care in childhood. Lies were tools to maintain safety, to gain attention, or to avoid punishment. In adulthood, these strategies persist because the brain still anticipates threat. Even if the environment is now safe, the nervous system remembers fear before reasoning can intervene. Yet, there is hope. Awareness becomes the turning point. Recognizing that lying is a survival mechanism rather than a moral failing opens the door to compassion for oneself and others. It allows the adults to ask, what am I afraid of if I tell the truth? What patterns am I repeating from childhood? Each question becomes a key to unlocking authenticity. Healing is gradual. It starts with small acts of honesty in safe spaces, sharing a thought with a trusted friend, admitting a mistake at work, acknowledging emotions without embellishment. Every act rewires the brain, signaling that vulnerability is not inherently dangerous. Boundaries, self compassion, and therapy can all support this transformation. The adult serial liar can also reclaim the hidden gifts from their childhood. Their hyper awareness, adaptability, and emotional intelligence becomes tools for empathy, leadership, and creativity. What once felt like a burden, the need to navigate complex social dynamics to anticipate threats, can now become a strength, when paired with conscious choice. And here is the most profound truth: the serial liar is not broken, they are a survivor. Every lie was a message of self preservation, every concealment a silent plea for safety and acceptance. Understanding this allows both empathy and empowerment. The patterns that once controlled them can be recognized, challenged, and gradually replaced with honesty and trust towards themselves as well as others. So, if you find yourself relating to this, know that the path forward begins with awareness and patience. Change does not erase the past, it transforms it. You can honor the child who learned to lie to survive while choosing to be seen as your authentic self today. Each truth spoken, each boundary respected, each act of vulnerability becomes a reclaiming of life that was always yours to live. The psychology of the serial liar is not a story of failure. It is a story of adaptation, survival, and ultimately transformation. And if you have carried these patterns, know this: the journey towards honesty and authenticity is not easy, but it is profoundly liberating. You were never weak for lying. You were learning to survive, and now, with awareness, you can learn to thrive.